What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, it looks like that massive Netflix WB acquisition is getting a bit messy now, with Paramount getting involved as they're attempting their own hostile takeover of the whole thing, and even more reports coming out that Netflix was looking at other acquisition targets, one being a pretty big video game company and the other being Disney. We'll go over all of that, though, here today. Also, we are going to be talking about a remake that seems to have leaked out a bit early through some court filings, and it's actually good news, I guess, for Star Wars fans, provided it actually ends up happening. And we also get to talk about Capcom, because they discuss some older IPs that, man, it'd be great if we brought these back and then maybe even revitalize. I don't know. Like Mega Man. Yeah, so all of that and more. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button. Helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. Guys, we're here every weekday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time, going over all the different news and gaming to try to keep you up to date. So if you don't get a notification, just know there's probably a video here for you in the morning you can check out. And we're going to start today with an announcement that we can look forward to here in a couple of days, for a new Tomb Raider game. Yeah, I mean, we already kind of talked about how that could be maybe the statue that's being floated. Doesn't seem to be the case now, because they're just outright saying it. We can see this. This is over on their official account on social media, asking, did you miss her? She missed you. As just revealed in the Game Awards Vote in Fortnite map portal, tune in to the Game Awards on December 11th for a look at the future of one of gaming's most iconic franchises, that of course here being Tomb Raider. So at this point, we can expect there being some sort of new game with Lara Croft, and now we're hearing word of maybe there being two announcements, one being a remake of one of the classic games, the other being like the brand new game. And I figure they're rebooting the franchise again. They have other forms of media I believe they're trying to run it alongside of, whether it's a show or anything like that, or movies. So that's what I would kind of expect here. I think going into it, bare minimum, probably a look at the brand new big game, right? Maybe not this remake, remaster, whatever they're doing, but like they're going to get the series back on track after they, of course, had Tomb Raider 2013, Rise of the Tomb Raider, Shadow of the Tomb Raider. I think that trilogy is kind of being left behind now, and a fresh start. So I'm very curious to see what this game looks like, because we have been hearing quite a bit about it just being in development at Crystal Dynamics. So let's see what they can turn in here this week. Also, Skate Story came out yesterday. Reviews also went live. You can see this over on Metacritic. Now, currently it's sitting at an 80 on the PS5. That has the most reviews. Not too far behind is the PC that had 15 reviews. That's at 89. So the game is floating around in the mid 80s if you take everything, average it out, and I had a chance to download it and play it briefly. It is on PlayStation Plus, so if you have PlayStation Plus, you should be able to just go ahead and download it. I try to remember exactly which tier. It might be the extra tier, but either way, if you have the service, you can check, and if it's there, go ahead and download it, because I was playing it very briefly, like I mentioned, and it feels very different from any other skateboarding game, and that was kind of the idea, being more of it like an adventure, story-driven kind of skateboarding game. The story, it's very weird, I guess, is one way to put it. But the game itself, while it's kind of on rails in the sense that you have a certain course that you're going through, a path, some of the controls are kind of interesting, whether it's for doing tricks or even just ollieing. There's a whole timing mechanism involved as you're racing down different paths, and you use the shoulder buttons along with circle to do some of the tricks like kickflip, pop, shove it, and there's a little meter that moves around, and you just kind of time it just right, and you'll get extra points on it. So I still have a ways to go. Again, I just started. The game apparently is 5 to 6 hours long, so it's nothing that's really going to take up a good chunk of the like playtime to really get through. You can finish it, for most people, even just playing casually, in the course of a week, and that was kind of their idea. Not to have some crazy bloated experience, something that's a bit more bite-sized that you can enjoy throughout a month and feel like you got enough out of it, but not to the point where it's taking up everything. Oh, and we had a bit of a surprise here, as Harada is apparently leaving Bandai Namco. This we can see on their social media account, where they say, I'd like to share that I'll be leaving Bandai Namco at the end of 2025. With the Tekken series reaching its 30th anniversary, an important milestone for a project I've devoted much of my time to, I felt this was the most fitting moment to bring one chapter to a close. Also worth noting, at the bottom of this message, the Harada does say they're doing something else after this, and they will let people know later on what exactly the next chapter is in their life. So I'm curious what would spur this on, as they've been involved with Tekken since the beginning and really then went into like a directorial role. And I mean, it's been 30 plus years of just Harada linked to Tekken. So I'm not really sure what would be next after Bandai Namco. Maybe some kind of collaborative effort with other creators in Japan, as he's been taking a lot of pictures with many different creators that you probably know and posting it on social media. So who knows, maybe some talks going on there. Maybe they have plans to make one big game. Who knows? But still, definitely worth keeping an eye on here, as his time at Bandai Namco drawing to a close. Unthinkable, I'm sure, in the fighting game community to have Tekken without Harada in the future. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with this massive acquisition for Netflix and WB. It's valued over $82 billion, which is ridiculous, and it certainly blew up online as people are realizing, wow, Netflix, who already controls a lot of the streaming world at this point with more than 300 million subscribers, would then pick up like third or fourth place. But I mean, HBO Max had more than 128 million subscribers. Start adding the numbers up, you're like, wow. And then the treasure trove of intellectual properties and franchises that WB controls that would then go to Netflix and the whole theatrical thing. There's a lot of discussion around this entire deal. But it does appear that one company is not happy about this, and that's Paramount, because seems they're attempting a hostile takeover. And we can see this over on New York Times. It says Paramount went around the Warner Bros. Discovery board and straight to shareholders with what it called a superior offer. Paramount said it would pay $30 per share in cash, valuing the company at around $108 billion, including debt. It said it was going to shareholders because the board of Warner Bros. Discovery is pursuing an inferior proposal that would lead to a challenging regulatory approval process. Paramount has offered to buy all of Warner Bros. Discovery, including the Warner Bros. Movie Studio, the HBO Max streaming service, and a portfolio of cable channels, including CNN. The cable channels are not part of the Netflix deal. And I mean, if you're Netflix, why would you want all these cable channels, these networks? They're not going to do a lot for you when your future is just streaming video. And even like the theatrical stuff, people have been wondering if Netflix is really going to keep that, or if they're just saying they will for now to get things through regulators. But I mean, if you think about it, even from Netflix side, a lot of the stuff that WB has to create these blockbuster films, that could translate over into just creating better production for Netflix on streaming. And yeah, I mean, it's technically an avenue in if they want for the theater side as well, maybe do runs and streaming and theater releases at the same time. There are some things they can do. But it also appears that Netflix was looking into other acquisition targets. This we can see over on GameSpot. It says, according to Bloomberg, Netflix executives previously debated whether the streamer should place bids for EA, Fox, and get this, Disney. However, the management team reportedly couldn't agree on a deal and feared that its interest in those companies would hurt its standing with its investors. The report doesn't include details about when Netflix considered these acquisitions, especially since Disney is usually the company that buys other studios, including Pixar, Marvel, and Lucasfilm. That is a good point. I mean, Disney, I think people look at Netflix and they do tend to forget just the valuation of Netflix, which is legitimately hundreds of billions of dollars according to their market cap. And with that, and you can leverage, of course, when it comes to equity and loans, you could do a lot to just to really be able to drum up enough capital. Yeah, to legitimately apparently entities like Disney. I mean, EA, we saw with them going private, it was going to cost half just about of what it's taking right now to buy WB. So that they could have figured out, but I don't really know why they would want EA. We're questioning what's going to happen with some of these game studios like NetherRealm underneath of WB. If it does go through and they end up under Netflix, how much use do they have for NetherRealm? They do have use then for Mortal Kombat, as they can work that into streaming and movies and stuff, but game development, not really something we attribute to Netflix much outside of some of the mobile stuff that they've been attempting. In fact, they've really just been shutting down or selling off studios that they've had. They've gone from 6 to 3 over the last several years. So that them buying EA would have made no sense, and that actually would have been really bad for EA if they would have gotten involved there. So for now, Paramount attempting to go around the deal to investors, trying to sell them on this because they really want WB. But as of now, it seems that WB is still going to be pursuing this current acquisition that's been floated by Netflix, and see how that goes into 2026. That's the plan now. But they do say they will keep an eye on this Paramount stuff, and I guess, mull it over and figure out which way to go. But my money right now would be on Netflix. That seems like something they've kind of come to terms with, and they get to keep their cable network, which I guess these channels and stuff are really important to them, as maybe they can then spin them off and really try to sell them off to someone else and make a bunch of money there too. Next up, let's talk about a bit of a surprise in the remake territory, as one remake in particular leaked out a bit early from court documents. That's something we're getting more and more used to happening, especially after the whole Microsoft Activision Blizzard acquisition, where all kinds of stuff got out there, mostly because of poor redactions or really companies just uploading to the wrong Dropbox or something. But here, this has to do with Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2. Now, the whole case seems to be around Knights of the Old Republic 2 because there was supposed to be cut content added into a release. I remember on the Switch, that was a big thing. It never went in, and here we are now in court, it looks like. Well, Stephen Totilo over at GameFile decided to dive into many of these documents and found some really, really interesting bits and pieces here. So we can see this. This is over on IGN, who is citing Stephen Totilo and GameFile with this report, which does pull from court documents related to a false advertising lawsuit launched against Saber's Aspire Media and Lucasfilm in 2023. The attorney, Ray Kim, provided for details about what Project Juliet was during the deposition of Lucasfilm Games Vice President Douglas Riley, saying, quote, Juliet was the code name for a project where we were going to do a full remake of KOTOR 2, or Knights of the Republic 2, with modern art, modern gameplay, keep the story and the characters and the general content of KOTOR 2, but remake it for modern hardware and modern machines with updated graphics and all those kinds of things. It was something we were discussing with Aspire. Now, whether or not this KOTOR 2 remake remains in development is hazy for now, with Riley's last update saying Juliet was technically on the roadmap as of March 2025. So, okay, earlier this year, about 9 months ago or so. I mean, it looks... The thing with Embracer is they feel like they are all over the place and who knows what's going on there. But the KOTOR remake is said to it's still in development. We've been hearing that, right? Like, it went back into development, all of that. And it's said to now be in the hands of the team behind Hellraiser Revival at Mad Head Games. Okay, I didn't expect that one, but still, Saber and Mad Head Games working on this KOTOR remake. I mean, that's good for KOTOR 2 remake hopefuls out there, as the plan clearly was, we're going to have that, because remember, that Knights of the Republic 2 remake trailer, it feels like it was forever ago that was shown, but it's very clearly set up that, we're going to remake the first one, then we're going to remake the second one, because there were details apparently that the KOTOR 2 sold 75% of what KOTOR 1 sold, so there's interest obviously in that. Direct sequels, especially for games that have this storyline that's running here, especially longer games like this, you do tend to see a bit of a drop-off when it comes to sales, because if you don't play the first one, why would you play the second one? You see what I mean? So the fact that the sales were actually pretty good there, 75%, seemed like they were going, okay, well, yeah, let's remake the second one as well. Let's get that ball rolling. But then we see everything that was happening, all the chaos around Embracer, and they were canceling and cutting projects and studios left and right. It wouldn't shock me if this was gone and not in development anymore, but KOTOR 1 remake, at least being in development, does give some hope that if it ends up coming out and it ends up being, we'll just say good, decent to good, I mean, why wouldn't they remake KOTOR 2 at this point if it was already set up and planned out previously? So that's really exciting just to see what they can do. But, I mean, let's be real, we got to see how KOTOR 1 remake turns out, because that's really going to decide everything here. What can Saber and Mad Head Games turn in? That's to be determined. Next up, let's talk about Capcom, as they are looking to revitalize some older franchises. I mean, they say older, but we're not going that far back technically when we talk about Mega Man or Devil May Cry, but that's what they're doing right now. And look, at least they're calling out Mega Man, right? Like, it's baby steps right now, but we can see this. Now, this was over on Rockman Corner who noticed, and this was while outlining Capcom's long-term development goals. The COO over there was kind of just reflecting and going over some of their plans in the future, saying, we consistently release 2 to 3 major new titles each year, but recognize the need to grow our pipeline going forward. Capcom owns a wealth of globally popular brands, such as Mega Man, Devil May Cry, and Ace Attorney. We aim to expand our user base and improve our performance through new releases, remakes, and ports of titles in these series to new hardware. By enhancing brand power and cultivating loyal fan bases, we will grow these into core IP. So, I mean, when I look at this, Mega Man has continued on when it comes to these ports. That's what they've been doing this whole time. And really, since Mega Man 11 came out, it's been all these different legacy collections, which are cool to see because you can go, hey, look, here's all these Game Boy Advance Mega Man Battle Network games that people love. And you don't have to go online and either download a ROM or buy a horribly overpriced Game Boy Advance game, the cartridge, because the secondhand market is the one really just benefiting from that. Here, though, you get the Battle Network collection, and you get a bunch of really cool, yes, very nostalgic games, very, very cool games, just in one package. So they've been doing that, and they've been doing it well, I think, but the big part here, clearly, for me, is I'd like to see a new Mega Man game. I think that the next step is a new Mega Man X game, but even if they did another collection and they figured out how to get Legends in there, that would be really cool. With Devil May Cry, they just need to make another Devil May Cry. I mean, 5 was 2019, so that wasn't that long ago, and it feels like the development cycle would be up anyway, and we'd hear about one soon. But Mega Man, I think, is the big question mark, because I think they have an easy strategy, or at least a plan as to how they can get Devil May Cry out as a premium title. The question has been for Mega Man, how does it fit in with games today? Like, these 2D style games are not necessarily viewed as a $60 or $70 game. What can they do with Mega Man, or Mega Man X here, we'll say, to evolve it to where it can be viewed as a more premium product, and that is tough. I think it comes down to replayability. Like, if you can play through this Mega Man or Mega Man X game multiple times, and you're continuing to get new experiences and new content, and that's the idea, play through it so many times to unlock everything, that could add enough like overall value in the sense of just playtime, which would be cool. But really, it would come down to overall quality, and if they can make that work, I'd love to see it. But hey, if they want something new that they can really roll the dice on, it's got to be Mega Man Legends. Can they do something new there? I think that's one that can easily be viewed more as a premium kind of project, just because the setup, it being 3D, there's a lot of aspects there. So cool to see that Mega Man's at least pointed out. It's shocking to me that Capcom has gotten to now, I mean, Mega Man 11 is 2018, and we're still talking about, I wonder if they're going to make another Mega Man game of some kind, like new one. And here we are now in 2025, looking towards 2026, hoping for an announcement. So we'll see. But hey, Devil May Cry, that should be one I would assume coming up here pretty soon. So we'll keep an eye out for that. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3, which we've kind of gone back and forth on here and there as to when they could release it, when they could give it like the initial announcement or teaser for it. And now we're starting to hear more and more about its overall progress, like where it is in the development pipeline. This we can see. Now, this is over on The Gamer. And this was when speaking to French YouTuber Julien Chez from Naoki Hamaguchi, who's the director right now on the franchise here, the series, saying, at this point, the core game experience is almost complete, and we're now in the phase of refining and polishing it. As the director, I feel a very strong sense of the game's final form. Honestly, I really want everyone to play it as soon as possible, but of course, since it's a game, it needs to be carefully crafted before it can be delivered to players. Once we go through the phase properly, we'll be able to present it in a form we're satisfied with. So I ask everyone to wait just a little longer, and we'll be able to share more information soon. As for the third part, introducing new gameplay experiences and a new scale is key to successfully delivering the project players. High wind is certainly an important key word here. There's no doubt about that. And that, yeah, the high wind is clearly going to be part of the third game. And he mentions going up in terms of scale. Well, there's no better way to go up in scale than have you literally fly around the high wind, right? And be able to explore just about the entire planet at that point. That is like the next level of scale. Here's the thing with Final Fantasy VII, as they've gone through this now trilogy, they have been able to reuse assets, and that has helped. That, character models, all kinds of stuff, sure. But I am curious what they do, what little wrinkle they throw in there when it comes to the gameplay side. As they mentioned, upping the scale, how much of like the world are you going to be exploring with the high wind? Is going to be that scenario where you land somewhere and then you kind of teleport into that area that's already walled off. So it's more of like an open zoned kind of game, right? So it's exciting to hear more and more about this, because honestly, I'm just ready for this trilogy to wrap up and see what the conclusion is. If I had to take a guess, You know, maybe it does sound too soon, but why couldn't they do something at the Game Awards this week? I mean, if they're now moving into kind of the polishing and setting everything, doesn't that mean it's coming out in 2026? You could just show it for the first time at the Game Awards and get set up for 2027, which actually I did ask in the poll when people thought this game was going to come out. So let's take a look, which we can see here before we go to the comment of the day, that poll. And yeah, it looks like 2027 was the leading candidate here at 58%. I'm with a lot of you guys. I think 2027 makes the most sense. I feel like they want to get this game out before the end of this generation for PlayStation, right? And we think maybe 2028 is when now. I think anyway that the PS6 would release, although even holiday 2027, if let's say part 3 comes out over the summer for 2027, then it would still fit in, because look, we know they want to release it again and again, and they'll do I'm sure a big trilogy box set, and I will admit, I would look at that and go, maybe I do need that. Maybe I do need that. It'd be cool to have everything there in a really cool collector's edition setup and stuff. But I don't know, 2029 or later, that might be a little too long. It seems to me this is going to be a more streamlined setup in terms of development. A lot of the developers have stayed on just about the whole way through, and they have a lot of assets and different things they can pull from. I mean, they've already kind of built most of the world, basically all the world, like the entire world. So that's something else they can lean into there. And I'm sure they'll make more areas, of course, if you are flying around in the high wind and stuff. So that is exciting. I like that idea. Let's see how they can hopefully pull it off going into 2027. Then we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Always Triggered, who I'm sure fits in very nicely over there on Twitter X, saying, "It is so funny that a Kinect-like console with a Game Pass-style subscription for the vast majority of its games is selling better than the Xbox." Here's the thing, though. Okay, so this next Playground, again, I'll give it credit. It knows what it wants to be. When Microsoft was going into the Xbox One generation, they very clearly shifted course there with the Xbox 360, and really it was when the Kinect came out. I can't say it ruined, I mean, maybe. I can't say it ruined Xbox, because they did sell a lot of Kinects, but there was they changed their mindset a bit. I mean, early on in the 360 days, it was a lot about the core gamer and pushing those experiences, and then it's almost like the Kinect came out and they just flipped completely, and then they were talking about TV and multimedia and general audiences, and then the Xbox One was $500 because it had to come with this new Kinect 2.0. And even then it's like, well, I need the Xbox to use the Kinect, but I don't want all the other stuff that comes with the Xbox. For the general audience, I just want the Kinect experience. That's good enough for me. So here's this next Playground, $250 in 2025. And I mean, that's with inflation and stuff, that's downright cheap, I'm sure, back when the Xbox One came out. But with that in mind, it's playing into the kind of the family fun living room experience, and it's obviously working for them. I mean, to be able to, yes, outsell the Xbox, it looks ugly for the Xbox, but to be able to chart like that as a device that many of us learned about that day when it was mentioned, I mean, that is some impressive stuff, and a lot of that comes down to just the execution and sort of just their direction overall that they have figured out. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave it up here in a card, or maybe you wanted to hear my final thoughts on Metroid Prime 4 after I had completed it with no real spoilers in there. I'll leave that in a video right below it. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.